Welcome, I'm Dee. This is Elaborate Disguise. And there were two other videos prior to this one. So it'll make a lot more sense if you watch those first. And I'll try to link them up. But this video is my takeaway or my analysis of why my golden dream happened. And maybe what its purpose was. Again, it's not an answer, it's just the best I've got. Um, so it's best to start. My mom um, fell very ill, and she had a lot of illnesses. It started kind of with lupus, which led to rheumatoid arthritis, which led ultimately to stage 4 colon cancer. Um, but prior to that, when she did find out she had colon cancer, um, she had some procedures done, I guess, where they maybe were operating to take pieces of her colon out. And she was told after that surgery that they got it. And so that's how she relayed it to me, that they got it, and she was good to go. Not long after that, she wasn't good to go. Um, in her next doctor visit, she now had stage 4 colon cancer. And they did a complete or a colostomy. I took out her colon. She got an ostomy bag, which she hated. I don't blame her. It just, boy, she hated that thing. She did not want to wear that, but and so after she had the colostomy and she was living with that for a while with the ostomy bag, um, she needed to have chemo and other treatment. So I tried to work through some options with her. There were some places where I thought she could get care, where she could go to a center. She didn't want to do that. So I offered that she could come and stay with me, and we had a local hospital here. It was pretty good, and she wanted to do that. And I wanted her to be able, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I had hopes that everything would go well, but I didn't know. And my children were still pretty young, and I wanted her to see them grow as much as possible. Hopefully she would, be here when they graduated and everything. And so she came to live with us. We gave her the guest room and set it up, and she brought her dogs, which we were not happy about. That was a very stressful thing for us. But I knew they were her babies and she needed them. I understand that. It just was very hard on us. We had a cat. I didn't think she was going to be able to take care of the dogs. I did not have the time to take care of the dogs. That's why I don't have dogs, because they're children. I mean, they're of that same, I guess, mindset where you have to take care of them like children. I mean, they need to be walked, they need to be fed, they need to have doctor's appointments, all of that. They need attention, and they're beautiful creatures. And I didn't think that was going to go well, and it did not go well. But I took her to chemo. I listened to what the doctors tried to tell her. And I also tried to get her to eat a little bit better, because she was eating a lot of sugar. I think, I'm not a doctor, but I think that cancer just eats up so much of your metabolism that your body is telling you to get energy any way it can, and what we default to is sweetness, and it's pleasant and comforting, and that's what she did. And I don't think that was helpful, but there was a lot of stress in our house at the time. I mean, my husband was working long hours. We had very little money. My daughter is severely dyslexic, and I was driving her weekly, like an hour and a half one way, and then staying there all day until she was done, and then driving her home. And then we had violin lessons for my son. Had to take the dogs out. I had to clean up after the dogs. She was just too sick. Um, and that's not her fault that she was too sick to do that. But it made things here and the tension between us, it was difficult. And we didn't have a very calm relationship prior to that. I loved her. I loved her dearly. She was my mother. But we had a very, that's for another video, very interesting relationship. And anyway, it was a tinderbox. And after Christmas, well, there was a blow up before Christmas, and my husband and I decided that we just couldn't do it. And it was an awful decision. And we took her home after Christmas. And when we dropped her off at her house in a retirement community, I mean, nothing was set up for her there. And that just, I think it was like a match that just got thrown onto a fire that was already smoldering. And she lost it and she just bawled. And I cried, and her friend ushered me out. She said, we'll take care of it. She's upset. Go ahead. You have to go home. And I did. And she was okay for, I think it was maybe another 6 months, and then she ended up back in the doctor's office and back in hospice. It was in hospice this time, and she did not want to be in hospice. But she was very sick. So reluctantly she went to hospice, and I decided I needed to be with her. So I left my husband and my children. And I was determined to stay with her until the end. And while I was there and before she became nonverbal, I had already had my golden dream. It was probably it might have been, 6 years plus prior to this event. But a few days before she became nonverbal, and in my head was this one phrase. And it's not like when you think of something and as a broken record, like a song that you can't get. This was not like that. I kept hearing, tell her, tell her, tell her, tell her, over and over. And I didn't want to tell her because my mother and I didn't talk like that. I talked to my dad about my weird beliefs or weird things that happened to me or my thoughts and stuff. I didn't talk to her about that. I talked about other things, but I didn't talk to her about that. And I didn't want to tell her. And so I tried to make it go away, and I tried to put it off on a nurse, and was hoping she would tell me, no, don't tell her. But the nurse said, I can't tell you what to do. And I was like, oh my gosh. So finally I decided to ask my mom. And I said, I had a very beautiful experience that I think showed what's after this world, and do you want to hear it? And she shook her head and said yes. So I told her. It was a condensed version because, again, it was really uncomfortable. I didn't want to do it. And I told her. After I finished my story, she asked me, did she come back? And I regret the way I phrased it, because It came out in a way I didn't mean it this way, but I said no. What I meant is no, I didn't see her after that, so I don't know if she came back. But I know she wanted, she believed in and hoped for reincarnation, so I felt bad that I phrased it that way. And then a few days later, she became nonverbal. And like a couple of days after that, I was beside her bed. I was holding her wrist because her hands were partially closed. And she looked up, like to the ceiling, where the ceiling and the wall meet, and then looked over my brother's head, who was also there, and looked above my head. And, several more moments passed, and then her pulse stopped.